Well, good morning and welcome to Coffee with the Coach. And today it's Coffee with the Coaches because we have 4 coaches, no waiting. We have the well-known Dr. Milu, which we've visited with each week. Good morning, Dr. Milu. We have Makenna Burton, who is the lead artist for Vino Envision. And we have Zulma, who is the global leader for the coaches for Vino Envision. So this is we've put together the whole team for everybody to have a little conversation. So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tony. This is because this is aspiration is our theme of the month. So these are the key people who are driving our aspiration here. So that's why it would be good for us to start the conversation. And Makenna holding that wonderful painting, Menu of My Life. That's fantastic. So,
well, you know, it's interesting because when I first met Dr. Milu, Makenna and Zulma, you may not know this, but when I first met Dr. Milu, he said, I'd like to get to know you because I want to take my coaching to the online platform. And he had aspirations of building Vino Envision before he even knew exactly what it was going to turn out to be. And you, Makenna, and Zulma are key aspects to his organization now. So congratulations to Dr. Milu for achieving your aspirations and moving those goals forward. And I guess Makenna has been with you from the early stages of this as your artist. Yes, from the beginning.
So is Zulma.
And Zulma as well. Okay, very good. Well, I know Makenna has just led the Menu of Your Life art project activity online. And that is something that I have not had the pleasure of participating in the actual activity from the artist perspective. So tell me, how did that go? And you've done this many times, I presume.
Yes, I've done it many times. If you haven't come, you should definitely do it. We do it every Thursday from 7 to 9. So you're definitely invited.
Every Thursday?
But it's basically, it's a guided 2-hour painting class where I kind of walk everybody through the steps and kind of give suggestions on how to create basically the painting of the week. But everybody's definitely encouraged to do their own thing and make it creative because it's meant to be a very personal experience. So I try and give people tools to be able to create exactly what they want to create. And, you know, of course, kind of give them a little bit of guidance just because most people have not painted a ton. So they usually kind of look for a little bit of help on like what we're doing or what the steps are. But the goal is that it's a very, you know, creative experience for people. So Menu of My Life, I think, is a great one. Sorry, excuse me, I'm fighting a little bit of a cough. So this is a great one. I think this was actually, Milu, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was, I think, probably kind of the very beginning of Vino Envision. Like this was the precipice of the whole thing. So this one I know is very important. I've redesigned it several times, so I have it on the back too. This is the only painting that we do on wood. And again, you can kind of see like even just this side to this side, it's pretty much the same thing, but I've painted it differently both times. There's a lot of room for creativity. So the core is the same, right? It says Menu of My Life, Design a Life I Love. And then we have all the little bubbles that correspond, you know, to the packet, the workbook that people do with their coaches. But, you know, you're able to kind of redesign it and maybe do it red or do it green and paint a lot of trees. Or I've done it before during Valentine's Day and I did it like pink and I did a lot of hearts. I've done like a sunset with palm trees, you know, so it's just very easy to kind of customize it how you like for however maybe you want it displayed in your home, depending on what your personal, you know, decoration taste is, or just kind of what you're feeling, what you feel inspired by on that given week that you're painting it.
Is that your aspiration, to be on the beaches with palm trees?
It sure was when I did this one.
And
Is
tell
this
me,
a-
what are the each of the circles? What do they represent?
So each of the circles, we paint them black with the intention that people will either be able to use chalk or a Post-it note. And once they go through the workbook, they can take each of those sections and kind of work with their coach to minimize or summarize what they want to achieve in their life into one word. So the little circles or boxes or whatever shape you choose to make them are meant to be kind of an open space that you can fill and refill as you go throughout your life and you work on the menu. So I'll read them off. The first one is add. The second one is subtract. So things you want to add in your life, things you want to subtract in your life. We've got wealth, lifestyle, no way, equity, income, and eulogy. So there's 8 of them. And I can read them again if you're writing them down.
I got them.
You got them?
So-
Okay.
So go over each one separately and tell me what they do.
I will do my best. I am not a coach. So I feel like maybe Zulma would maybe be a better person to explain.
Well, that's
in depth
a
what they
good
are.
idea, because Zuma, you participate in this all the time as well. And I'd love to hear from you.
Yes, good morning, and thank you, Makenna. Makenna does an amazing job to guide us coaches and clients through these art classes. And it's very enjoyable to participate and engage that creative aspect that we love so much at Vino and Vision. And then from the coaching perspective, it's very helpful to then engage during the creative process of creating these hands-on activities that then we're going to be bringing into our coaching sessions. So I'll give you a couple of examples of how that happens within the module specifically that we're talking about for aspiration. So for the entry that says add, it would be along the lines of what the workbook says. That's our starting point. And it would be, in blank time, I would like more of. And so our clients just go through their workbook, fill in the entries, and they bring that to their coaching session. We don't tell them how little or how much. Usually what happens is it's filled up to, let's say, a couple of sentences, if not a little bit longer. And our work together is to, as I put it, summarize, or I call it simmering it down to very specific words, and specifically down to one word that our clients can then identify with and work with. As our coaching sessions are over, we'd like our clients to keep on the coaching work on their own, and having this, hands-on activity that they can connect with, an actual physical aspect of their coaching with us that they can see because it's on their wall, because it's on their desk. It's that somebody once called it artifact from their coaching work with us. And every day they'll be able to look at it and remember what it is that they are working towards. So someone could say, they could have, as I mentioned, 4 or 5 sentences, and they can come down with the word love. They like, in blank time, they like more love in their life. And that gives them a very specific goal to work towards versus something that they might not even know they want. Because many of my life is all about figuring out what those aspirations are. Sometimes someone may know, but they may be very broad. And many of my life in this particular hands-on activity helps us focus, helps us see that light in the dark tunnel, as Dr. Milu puts it, as far as how Vino and Vision, what it is at the core at Vino and Vision that our coaching program does. It helps our clients just really see that light, focus on what it is that they're looking for as far as what their aspirations are, and go for them. And the more simple, the better. When it's too muddled, too complicated, then it becomes a challenge in itself. When we know and our clients know what it is that they're running towards, it's easier to accomplish. So many of my life, I always say this about every single art, every single module is my favorite. It's like asking me which one is my favorite child. You can't pick a favorite, they're all amazing. And I often talk about many of my life as being very similar to having a menu at any restaurant, where you may say beforehand, I'm hungry, but I don't know what I want. And we go through life like that. We're hungry for things. We're hungry for goals that we don't know. We're hungry for projects that we feel that we're supposed to be doing and we haven't quite figured out what they are. And so we walk into a restaurant, we see a menu, and sometimes we have dishes that are made for us already, right? But you're like, oh no, I don't want that. And then having the ability to actually pick a la carte or modify a dish, it's very awakening, and it creates an awareness about the power that we have to create things in our lives. And that's what many of my life does, because we figure that we do have options. Many times, one of the things that hold us back is the fact that we think that I have to live this way, I have to do this in this way because I have no option. And many of my life, it's amazing at adding, reducing, creating. And when we figure that we do have that creative power through an activity like this, it really is life-changing. For example, I'll give you an example of something that happened to me during training with Dr. Islam. We went over my subtract portion of menu of my life, and I put in blank time, I'd like less. And I believe I put in a year, maybe a year or 3 years, I'd like, and to be honest, I've forgotten what it is that I had put in there, but it was like 3 or 4 sentences. And through the exercise, Milu and I simmered down, reduced, and summarized that in blank time. I wanted, what I really was wanting was, that was what I want more of, not less of. What I really was wanting and looking for and aspiring for was more respect. And to me, it was very revealing that I thought that I needed that much time to have more respect in my life, when in reality, after that exercise, I felt within a couple of weeks that I had respect, because the inner work clicked, that it was an inward aspect instead of wanting my outside environment to provide me something I already had. I just needed to find it. I needed to have that menu in front of me to say, I want that and I want it now because I'm hungry for it now. And if I don't have it now, we know what happens if we don't eat, right?
You probably at first needed to respect yourself more, or to understand that you earned respect. You
Exactly.
deserved respect.
I already had it. I just had to believe it. I had to believe it. And knowing that it was on the menu was life-changing.
I love that, knowing it was on the menu. It was on the menu. That's a great analogy.
So those are some examples. I mean, I could give you more. Eulogy, it's life-changing as well.
That's my favorite one by
It's
far.
Absolutely, because
why don't you explain that a little bit? Because many people may not understand the concept of starting with the end in mind.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to go ahead, Makenna? Share.
I can a little bit. Oh, we lost her. Hopefully she comes back in, because I'm sure she'll do a better job than I will do. But eulogy, I think, is my favorite, especially for me personally, just because I maybe have a couple hangups about getting older. And having a very full life is something that's very important to me. So to imagine the end of my life and what I want people to say about me after I've died is really special. And it's very personal to write my own, or to imagine writing my own, because it just kind of summarizes everything that I want to have accomplished, like when I look back. And I'm a big fan of bucket lists. That's something that I'm very passionate about. I love my bucket list very deeply. And I love having a tangible bucket list that I can look at and cross things off. and plan towards. And so to imagine the end of my life when I've hopefully completed my bucket list and I've, died, what will people say, or what will I say about myself? Like, and then to summarize or simmer that down, like Zulma said, into one word, I think is so powerful, because
Well, that's
it just
hard.
makes
How do
feel
you summarize that into one word?
right. Exactly. How do you? I mean, it's incredible. How do you summarize your entire life into one word? It feels huge. It feels incredibly daunting. But what an important thing to do. Like, what kind of life do I want to live? What kind of life do I want to have lived after I'm done? I don't know, it's a big question. It's a big question. And I think that that's probably my favorite part about the menu of my life. It can be very fluid, because we don't paint those words in. That's why we have the blank boxes, because it can change. We create the menu, and then maybe you go back in 6 months and you redo the workbook after you've maybe accomplished some of your goals, or the way that you, like Zulma said, your inner work has changed a little bit, and you can kind of reevaluate. Or it's something you can do in a year or 2 years, or just continuously throughout your life, kind of getting closer and closer to what you want that eulogy single word to be, within the knowledge that it could change, and it is very a fluid concept.
So one of my thoughts that comes to mind is, since this is something that you hang in your home and you have very personal items that are on this board, do you feel a little exposed with some of your deepest thoughts for all to see?
Absolutely. I think that it's a very vulnerable experience to even go through the work of writing down the sentences and doing the whole workbook. And then to kind of really, like Zulma said, kind of identify the fact that she needed more respect in her life. I mean, that's a very personal thing, and probably quite hard to admit, that she didn't feel like she was respecting herself as much as she wanted to, or wasn't receiving respect from her loved ones or her coworkers or colleagues as much as she wanted to. I mean, that's a very kind of profound and intimate thing to feel. But I mean, I think there's also a lot of power in confronting that.
It's very well done. So you've done this menu of your life numerous times.
I've painted it probably at least a dozen times. Yeah.
And each time, do you get something new out of it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Each time I've done it with new people. So that's always interesting. And the way that I've explained it, I think, has probably evolved over time. And the way that other people interpret it and the way that we kind of talk about it with each other has changed. And everybody always wants something different out of it. And that's the beauty of having, a creative position with Vino and Vision. I get to collaborate with so many different people that have different ideas. So some people have seen it very literally as like an actual menu, and they want to design it as if it's like, here's the menu, and like, here's the little, parts of the menu that I would order from.
Here's my main course.
Here's my main course, here's my appetizer, here's my entree, here's my dessert, all that stuff. So some people's brains really work very literally like that. Other people work kind of abstract. I've had some people that I've done it with not even want to do the boxes or the circles. So it's just very interesting to see how it fluctuates to other people, and also just for my own sake, so that I'm not doing the exact same painting over and over. I always try and change it. Whether I go with a theme or I've tried to do it kind of seasonally sometimes, it's just fun to mix it up a little bit.
So the fourth circle there, is that no way. What does no way represent?
No way is things that you will absolutely not tolerate in your life, things that you will not stand. So again, I wish Zulma would come back and probably explain that a little bit better than me. But in my mind, when I think of things that I would not tolerate, like I would not tolerate somebody disrespecting me or somebody speaking down to me. And then you have to kind of go through all those things that you won't have, you will not stand for, and simmer it down to one single word. So mine could be disrespect.
So Dr. Milu, how do these individual items correspond as to how you set them up, from adding and subtracting and wealth and lifestyle? Are they in this order for a particular reason?
No. The order is not important here. Remember, you can start your meal with a dessert. You don't have to eat the appetizer first, right? So in creative mind, and Zulma is back, so she can explain it better. But in creative mind, you are looking at creativity. You are looking at a totally unknown world, right? Because in a logical world, 1 + 1 makes sense to be a 2. In logical world, 1 + 1 makes sense to be a 2. In a emotional world, 1 + 1 can be anything. So when
In the creative world, yes.
yeah, if I challenge you, 1 + 1 is equal to 5. Will you believe that?
In your world, it might be.
It is. In an emotional world, just imagine that for a second and let's connect it to the reality. So you want to go buy a car and you found a car that you now emotionally attached to. And they're asking you 3 times more than the logical car that you need. Which one you will be attached to more? Just imagine that for a second, the emotional car that you are now attached to mentally. That's 3 times more than, and you can afford it. You can afford both of them. Which one you will choose?
Well, when you're emotionally attached, you will always choose the one you're connected to.
Exactly. And that's why 1 + 1 in emotional world is not 2. It can be many. It can be 100. Is the untapped potential. So Zulma is back and I want to use her as much as we can. And knowledge is fabulous. And as Zulma and Makenna work together, they know how fabulous both of them are.
Well, Zuma, I know we're talking about the individual parts of the menu of your life. And I was asking if there was a particular order to them. And Milu said there was not. And I see that there's both wealth and equity on the board.
And income.
So wealth is considered your income. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the two people.
And equity, explain what equity is a part of.
I personally, Makenna, do you want to say something?
I was just going to say, between the three, I think those are probably the most confusing, in my opinion, because they do the words are a little bit similar.
Is income the one that's hidden under the palm leaves?
Income is right here, yeah. So I think about income as like actual monetary money, right? How you'd want your income to improve. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but wealth, I think, is different than that because I feel very wealthy for having good health. I feel very wealthy for having wonderful relationships. I feel wealthy for a lot of reasons, but money is not really one of them. Although money is a very important, making a good income, a comfortable income is an important part of my life. I wouldn't consider that to be what makes me wealthy. So that was all that I was going to interject. But please, if I'm wrong, Zulma.
You did not interject. You added very valuable information, and I'm happy to tell you that you are not confused. So
okay, good.
That thought. I do want to focus on equity because Makenna did explain, income and wealth aspects. Equity is just like eulogy, very special to me. Because equity, someone could think along the lines, and it could be, we could have a client that is thinking very much along the lines of what they would want their equity to be later on in life. And we could certainly work through that. But at the end of the day, equity is when we get further along in life and we are able to be retrospective about the things we have done. What is your actual true equity? For someone, it may be recognizing that those special friends in their life is part of their equity, right? The things that they have accomplished as far as what they've done in their community. If they are focused on community work and nonprofit work, that may be their most special equity in their life, the lives they have been able to touch and change. So I really love equity for those aspects, just like eulogy, because oftentimes we think that the things that we would want in the future have nothing to do with what we're thinking now. And if we're able to, Milu puts it beautifully, and I love when he says that all of Vino Vision coaching modules, but specifically menu of my life, really helps us sort of travel into the future, right? See ourselves where this menu that we set allows us to see what we look like now. Where are we at our starting point? But really imagine and create that being that we would want to be at the point of our eulogy, where we would want to be at our point of retirement. And we're not talking specifically as it relates to our professional life. It can, but this is about a holistic approach. This is about bringing the parts into one together. And so when we talk about many of our life being the creative aspect of what brings us together so that we can walk in a direction, but not just walk towards something, but a very specific focus something in a very whole approach. As in, I feel good about my lifestyle. I feel good about the equity I'm building, because when I look back one day, these are the things that I want to have in my portfolio. When I think about my eulogy, and I'll share that really quickly because it was another very impactful moment for me to find that in the 2 pages that I wrote about my eulogy, all I was looking for, it was love, the word love. And it's changed my life in the sense that I looked into the future to be able to look back to now and say, okay, now you've arrived at the point of your eulogy. Did you live a life of love? That's the only question I'll be asking myself. Mm-hmm. And although these can change throughout our life, I feel that that's probably one that's not going to change for me, because I'm pretty set on the fact that I want to live a life of love in everything that I do, in that holistic approach. And every day it's my, it's my farsightedness. It's what I see at the end of the rainbow, at the finish line, whatever we call it.
So it's your operating mantra when you have to make a decision that we all have to make in life, which is hard. You look back to what would be the decision that would be of love.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'm going to jump in here for a second and also let you know, Tony, remember, it's a menu of my life. It's right. Not saying it's menu of your life, menu of their life, it's menu of my life. It's all about me, the coachee. It's all about the coachee. So in this case, you see, we have certain things written on that menu. And we are in a structured world, in a logical world. It comes with like appetizer, salad, what is that other one, the middle course that you take a little.
Entree?
Yeah, and then you have entree, and then you have dessert, and then you have after dinner drinks, whatever you add, right? These are like in a structured mindset, we have that. In a non-structured mindset, you can create any menu you want. You don't have to call it appetizer. You can call it a funny name. And that's what Makenna did. Makenna put some funny name on there sometimes as working with people. It don't have to be like, for example, no way is an example of a creative name. So you have to come up with creative name for yourself. Eulogy don't have to be eulogy.
I've made eulogy RIP before.
Yeah, and it have to be, you can be as creative. So as creative is a limitless possibilities. And when you find that, and like Zulma mentioned about love, living a life of love is what she's craving for. And that's what she's gonna live the entire life, because we hit the foundation, the bedrock, and now we're gonna build back from there. So starting with the end of mind is the concept that we apply in there, and it's creative, it's not logical. And our logical mind try to take us in the logical direction. And we ask those questions in a logical mind, what is next, what is there, what is that? In an emotional mind, you create. and you co-create that with your logical mind. So your logical mind is not left behind. It's utilized to the max. And that's why artists look at a blank canvas before they start a painting. They look at a blank canvas. Now, if you give them a structure painting, they will do the structure painting, it will be copy. But that will not be Monet's creation of something. That's the mind have to create that, and that is worth of millions of dollars or priceless.
Very good. Well, that was a very good wrap up, and I think that we're probably getting to the end of our time here. But this was really enjoyable to hear the perspectives of you, Makenna and Zulma, having worked directly with the people and having experienced it in your life. I guess I was curious, Makenna, when you actually are instructing people on how to paint the piece, do you include any of the coach? Is there any coaching that goes into this, or are you just preparing them for what they will use it for?
We've done a little bit of both. There's been a couple classes that I've taught when we've had either Zulma, sometimes Carrie has joined us, and they're always a wonderful addition. I really enjoy when they're able to come in and offer a little bit of insight into the more coaching side of the creative aspect of it. But there's also been times when it's just me and new coaches or clients, and we are only there to have a fun and creative time, kind of hold space to make art. And then they go on to work with their coaches after the fact. So it's definitely varied. And I wouldn't say that one is particularly better than the other, but when coaches are able to join in and maybe explain a little bit deeper than I could personally, it's a wonderful addition to the class.
Yes, I think it would be great to know where I'm going with it. So I could see why that would make a good addition to the class.
Yeah.
Very good. So does anybody else have anything to add before we close for the day?
No, but you should totally come on a Thursday if you're interested. It's very fun. We're doing selfie on Thursday this week. So.
Well, I really wanted to come to the menu of my life. I think that was last week, was it not? Mm-hmm. And I was just getting back from out of town, so it was a little havoc in the week with playing catch up. But I will definitely come and join you.
Oh, excellent. I love to hear that. I know that Milu's hopefully going to be able to join us this week on Thursday as well. So that's exciting. Selfie is a very fun one.
Possibly I will, but remember we have a convention coming in April where Makenna will be doing 2 art classes on a Saturday. And, Makenna have not seen her schedule, but she will be soon.
Okay.
We'll be spending time with Zulma and other coaches, and Zulma will be in person here in St. Louis, and a few other coaches, and then we'll be spending time on and possibly we'll be doing Menu of My Life, and we will be also doing selfie. That 2 of those, or maybe we'll be picking positivity. So out of those 3, we'll be picking one. What you need, Tony, you most probably need happiness. That's the last module that we have. So you can live happily ever after, right?
That's what we're all after.
Yeah, that's going to be in St. Louis, and we will have a happy hour that we'll be doing on Thursday. Of course, Tony, you will be invited to come and join the rest of the group on that happy hour. So that will be fantastic. You can live broadcast Coffee with the Coach instead of Coffee with the Coach. You can call it Cocktail with the Coach.
It'll be our happiness hour.
Happiness hour. Very well. So thank you, Makenna, for attending this, and we will like you to come back again and teach us more of this beautiful thing you do every single day. And thank you. And
I'd like to have each of you back again. Zulma, it would be good to explore a little deeper.
Yes, and thank you, Zulma, for your leadership, and where we are today wouldn't be possible without you. You know that, and we are moving forward. We are charging forward to living the life of love.
Yes, we are. Yes, and I just want to add in that I'd like to encourage anyone that it's feeling that hunger and need for aspiration in their life to give Vino and Vision a try. And if it's not Vino and Vision, to give coaching a try, because it can potentially change their lives to create a life of love, a life of happiness. At the end of the day, this is about quality of life. We like to do it in a very lighthearted, fun way, because a lot of the hesitations, a lot of the deep work that needs to also be done becomes much less of a challenge when we're engaging our creativity. So Milu has created a wonderful program, and he's brought a community together that I'm very happy to be a part of. And we just want to grow and share it with the world because it works, because it's brings us smiles and happiness. And so we want everyone to experience that. That's it.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for being together on this lovely third Tuesday of the month. And we will look forward to meeting again with Vino with Coffee and the Coach on the first Tuesday of May.
Yes, and we'll be talking about vision. Fantastic.
Very good.
We'll
Well,
see you next time.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Nice seeing you, Makenna.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Great to see you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.